Good morning. We are live. This is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm attorney Vince Davis. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Darren Guay. And also I see, Darren, we have a guest, a special guest, Miss Vicky. Miss Vicky, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good this Sunday morning. Where are you coming from? Where are you calling us from?
I live in Lakeview, Ohio, which is Logan County. I'm 1 hour north of Dayton.
Where are you in relationship to Cleveland?
Oh, good distance, like 4 hours.
Okay. The only thing I know about Ohio is Cleveland. Before the pandemic, I used to go to Cleveland every June for a seminar, but they haven't restarted it back. And I think there was talk they're going to restart it, but only on Zoom. Anyway, so what's going on with you and CPS in Ohio?
Oh boy. Um, I I've had custody of three grandchildren since '08, and my middle child, quite the little rebel. She was, let's see, 16, well, 15 months ago, the case started. And she had a lot of behavioral issues and so forth. And she had met a couple that lives over here. We live like it's like a resort area where they camp and fish and so on. And so there's people that have summer homes. And she met an older couple, and she'd been wanting to move in with them, and they wanted her too. And for 3 years, I argued with her, no, this simply isn't going to happen. You have a home. Well, her bad behavior continued, and she was running off and shutting her phone off where I couldn't track her, and she would be gone sometimes, maybe a week at a time.
How
So I
old is
had a
she?
probation officer put an ankle monitor on her,
Oh, wow.
and the probation officer didn't leave it on no time before she cut it off. And
Oh,
off again. I think it was the same night or the next night she took off again. Um, anyway, we had a lot of problems with her behavior. Well, she got grounded for that. Her dad was here visiting. A big argument broke out between all of us, and she had. I just had it up to my eyeballs with her. I was going to take her to an appointment with me. I had an appointment that day. I was going to take her with me, and she screamed and cussed like this far from my ear for miles. And finally, I pulled over. I said, "Look, kid, I've had it. I'm calling your probation officer." I admit things came out of my mouth to that probation officer that never should have. I said I was going to drop her off at CPS. Well, we continued to talk for a while, the probation officer and I did. And by the end of the conversation, I told her I'm going to take her to my mom's, drop her off, go to my appointment, and when I come home, I'll give you a call. Well, I didn't have to, because when I got home, I had the police in my yard, I had the probation in my yard, and they wanted to search my house. Apparently, my granddaughter had told her probation officer that my son was using meth in the house and just anything she could to get to move in with these people. So they wanted to search my house. I said, have at it. I had a point to prove, otherwise I wouldn't have. So I said, have at it. So they came in and they searched, and what they found was my granddaughter's THC vape. That was it. Arrested my son, took him to jail. Thank God drug tested him because it was negative. And then I think it was the following day, my granddaughter's still at my mom's at this point. The following day, I believe it was, or maybe 2 days later, her probation officer called my mom and said, "Hey, look, I want to take your granddaughter to, they're having some kind of activity in her counseling class, and I'd like to pick her up and take her, and I'll have her home at 5:30. And my mom said, "Sure, come pick her up." Well, 5:30 came and went, and my granddaughter never came home. And later on that night, we got a call from the probation officer letting us know that she was in foster care.
How was the child placed with you? Through foster care or just with family members?
It was through children's services, but it was kinship.
Okay.
Hmm.
Did you have a guardianship, or you were just considered the
I
relative?
had I had custody of them, permanent custody of them.
But there's different types of permanent custody. There's adoption, there's legal guardianship, and there's long-term foster care. Which one did you have?
I believe it would have been legal guardianship.
Okay, do you have papers that say that you're legally the legal guardian of the child?
I do.
Okay, because if that's the case, they have to give you notice of a hearing, and you'll be treated just like a parent. And you go to court, and you're given the opportunity to weigh in on the matter and to get the child back if that's what you want.
Well, see, that happened 15 months ago. She still isn't home. They went and placed her with this couple that she wanted to live with. Her PO did.
Well, did you ever go to court?
Oh, yes. We had a shelter hearing within a couple of days. Didn't give me any time to have an attorney or anything. I'm in there by myself, and there's 6 or 8 on the other side. And I was basically told, well, we're just going to take her. And here I'm standing there like an idiot. I haven't spent a second in law school. And she's been there ever since. We had the adjudication. I had a public defender. And at this adjudication, she didn't tell me that I could have witnesses, which I would have had some people that was well known here in the county. I mean, chief of police and principal. And
What'd you say, Darren?
I said, quite a bit better prepared. I'm assuming is what she's getting at here, is that she went with nobody and instead of knowing what she could have done.
Well, apparently you didn't have an attorney at the shelter care hearing, but did you have an attorney subsequently, a court-appointed attorney at least?
I did, yes. And things weren't working out there, so I requested another one. Well, the judge screamed at me for 20 minutes in the courtroom over it. And I think out of retaliation, this is something Miss G and I talked about. I got one that was even worse. She doesn't answer my calls. She hasn't talked to me anytime other than a few phone calls for a couple of minutes and just right before we go into court. Last time we were at court, I was made to sit in the hallway while they determined my life in the courtroom.
Did they tell you that you might lose your guardianship and lose the child?
Oh, yes. But I don't understand why. The allegations was that there was meth in the house, that her dad was using meth in the house. We proved that. There was none found. His drug test was negative. However, they didn't bother to court order it or ask about the drug test or anything. But I do have a recorded call from he's on probation too, from the probation officer stating his drug test was negative on the day that my house was searched. But they weren't requesting it. The second reason was because I kicked her out. I didn't kick her out. I said I was going to drop her off at Children's Services. However, at the end of the conversation, I said, I'm taking her to my mom's and I'll call you when I get back. And that's exactly what I did. I took her to my mom's. But then I have a report from the GAL too that said that I kicked her out and her probation officer had to go pick her up and take her to my mom's. And that never happened. Never happened.
Have you talked to your attorney about getting the child back in your custody? Is that what you want?
I did for the first several months, but then she continued to tell all these lies. And I'm afraid that if she comes home and they believe everything that obviously that comes out of her mouth, I'm afraid that she'll see something really horrible happen and somebody will go to prison that didn't do anything.
How old is this child?
She's 17 now. The case will close the day after she turns 18. And they put her in a place where I told them this is not an appropriate placement for her. The couple are alcoholics, and I have showed the GAL, who, by the way, made 3 appointments with me to come to my house, canceled all 3 appointments. And I thought, well, she's got stuff going on. She'll get a hold of me. 7 months later, I'm contacting her and asking her to come to my house so I can show her a video of my granddaughter out with her kinship drinking alcohol on a boat. And it gets worse. But yeah, they think that's the appropriate placement for some reason.
And you don't agree with it, correct?
Not at all, no.
You know,
I mean,
there
I
is,
didn't mind her visiting with them, but I certainly didn't want her living with them.
so you know there is something that you can do.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Vince.
Can you hear me now?
I not very much better.
Can you hear me, Darren?
I can hear you great, Mr. Davis. It's like you're right next to me.
Got it. It was my phone. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm straining so hard to hear.
You know, I've been having technical difficulties, and I thought I had them fixed, and I was thinking, I don't have them fixed. What's going on? I'm glad you told me it was your phone.
It is.
So look, there's something that you can do. All right.
Okay.
And all I want you to do is listen. This will be on the internet forever. You should file a complaint, right? And there are 3 places where you should file it.
Okay.
Number 1 is with the Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay.
They're in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
They have a website, and the complaint form is on their website.
Okay.
Right. The second thing you should do is you should file a complaint with the United States Department of Justice. There's a local office near you, and you want the Civil Rights Division. Okay. Now,
Okay.
the next place is you want to file something with Ohio, the state office for CPS. So in Ohio, is it state run or is it county run?
Children's Services,
Mm-hmm.
I believe county.
Okay, so you don't want to file anything with the county. The
Okay.
county is overseen by the state, and in your state capital, what's the state capital of Ohio?
Columbus.
Columbus. Okay, so call up. You know, if you were in California, you'd call up Department of Social Services in Sacramento, and they have a claim form because they have oversight over the county social workers and CPS. Okay, so you want to
Okay.
find that same organization in Ohio, in Akron, and make a complaint there. Now, let me give you a tip. The complaint that you file for one probably should be the same complaint that you file for all of them. So you just copy and paste. But the complaint you file is going to have to be well thought out. I mean, you know, you just don't want to sign the form, they did me wrong, and sign and date it, because
Right.
they're like, oh, that's not a real complaint.
Mm-hmm.
Give them some history, some background. And if the things that you believe or said about the couple that have the child, they probably aren't a adequate placement for the child. And they're probably just kowtowing to the child's needs and wants, not needs, but wants. She's 17. She thinks she's grown, and they're just going to do what she wants. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. Now, the other thing, when you make your complaint, you want to, from what you've told me, and maybe you've left things out, I don't know, but it sounds like you weren't given a fair hearings. And, I can't really comment on why that happened. There could be many, many, many different reasons. It may be that this is just how they do business in your county. It may be, they don't like, grandmas. I don't know, but you can make that complaint, and hopefully that will be reviewed. You know, a lot of people um, contact me and tell me stories that I find, you know, I used to find them emotionally disturbing, but, you know, after 37 years of being a lawyer, I don't find them emotionally disturbing anymore. I find them, you know, disturbing, but I'm not surprised anymore.
Hmm.
They must
Because
be frustrated.
CPS is, you know, CPS cases and the way they treat parents, it's very low on the totem pole. You know, I turned on the news this weekend, yesterday and today, and they're just talking and talking and talking about one topic. But, you know, it's not, I mean, if you get screwed by CPS, they don't talk about it. I mean, they very rarely write about it. You know, there's some type of big to do going on in San Bernardino County, which is a county just east of LA County in California. And there was some kind of report that came out. It was in the news, and I don't want to say exactly what it says, but there was some mention about CPS being broken, you know, in that particular county, which is interesting because I practice in a lot of different counties in California, and in my opinion, they're all the same. And I don't know why. I don't know if somebody sued CPS in San Bernardino, or if there was a grand jury, you know, assembled. I forget what happened,
Hmm.
but that could be said true for any county in any state in the country.
Mhm.
You know, and I don't know if this is going to help people, you know, or hurt people.
It's been dirty from day one. It's like I've sat there for 15 months with an imaginary sock in my mouth. I asked my attorney, and everything is recorded. I asked my attorney, when can I show my evidence? And she says, we're not going to go in there and prove everyone liars. Therefore, I guess I don't get to show my evidence. So what I did was I took part of it to Children's Services and showed it to my caseworker. She said she gave it to the prosecutor. I don't know. I'm sure prosecutor's not going to help me in any way, shape, or form. Um, but it's just been totally ridiculous. I thought the GAL was supposed to work with both sides, so she knew which was the best placement.
Wait, why did you think that?
Hmm.
Well, she's supposed to do what's best for the child. Shouldn't she know both sides
Wait,
to figure that out?
time out. See, Darren, this is what I was talking about last week.
Yes, sir.
People have beliefs, and they really believe them. But when I ask them, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Vicky, but why did you think that about the GAL? I mean, who told you that?
Because I thought it was the GAL's job to determine what
I,
was best for the child. Should
I,
she stay with this family or go with this one? And
I
if
under,
she doesn't speak with me, she doesn't know anything other than what she's being told.
okay,
That's why I thought that.
okay, that's perfect. But it illustrates the point. The point is that your thoughts and beliefs are generally incorrect. Generally incorrect. And here's the danger. You think that and you actually believe it in your heart of hearts.
Hmm.
When things don't happen, you conclude certain things. You know, somebody asked me the other day, hey, why isn't this a conflict of interest? Because in their mind, they thought it was a conflict. And when I explained to them, I said, well, in your everyday, ordinary sense of what a conflict of interest is, it is a conflict. But guess what? That's not the definition of a legal conflict of interest.
Right.
Right.
Hmm.
That's something totally different. But yet, people in their minds believe that they're the same thing.
Right.
And they're worlds apart. Worlds apart. The
Well,
law, the law is not what you think it is
Right.
at all. You know, I have a video. You should go watch this video. It's 7 minutes and a few seconds and change. It's on YouTube. I'm standing in front of a whiteboard. The reason why I'm telling you is because I think I have 2 videos by this name. And the video's name is What is Justice?
I saw
You saw that?
Mhm.
You realize that only 5% of what you believe, on average, is true about the legal system and the law. You're 95% wrong.
Well, that's why we need an attorney, and I basically don't have one. I do on paper. That's about it.
But you know, I said this last week. You know, the law is basically in California, and I will guess if it's the same in Ohio. I don't know. But you know, you're entitled to a lawyer. That means a person, a warm body, with a degree and a license to practice law. You are not entitled to Johnny Cochran if he were alive.
Exactly. And that wasn't, I wasn't expecting much. I really wasn't, but
But
I got worse. And I think it really is out of retaliation that, and I don't think she's a worse attorney than the first. I think she's deliberately not doing anything for me. Because think about it, she's going to get paid one way or the other.
right. Now that's an important fact. Now, in our country, in our society, if I'm going to get paid one way or the other, am I going to give you 100% or I'm going to give you 50%? Over the long run, right? So
50%.
many people tell me that they believe that their attorneys should basically be doing a Johnny Cochran job and they should be assembling the dream team. That's not what you're going to get with a court-appointed attorney by definition. Just by,
Yeah.
you know, a long time ago, this is decades ago, I was a court-appointed attorney in Los Angeles County. And for a very brief time, they told all the court-appointed attorneys, if you want to subpoena somebody to court, you have to pay for the subpoena out of your pocket. Now, to say that that had a chilling effect on the number of witnesses that were subpoenaed to court is an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very
Right.
true. They changed the rule because they realized how ridiculous that was, right? But, you know, every department, every part of the government, they're trying to save money and, you know, what do they call it? Pass the burden on to somebody else. You know, I should get an Amazon affiliate referral because I want to refer you to a book. Darren, I want to refer you to this book as well.
All right, I'm in it.
It's about this thick. Okay. I wouldn't say it's easy reading, but it will give you an insight to our legal system. And it's not an insight that you would ever know. It's called The Economic Analysis of the Law. When it comes down to it, everything about the law is to allocate scarce resources. Okay? And it depends on the priority of things. Police resources in a community are high, right? Guess what's low? CPS stuff. You know why? I'm going to tell you why. There's not enough CPS people getting together and voting people in and out of office. So if you're a lawmaker, imagine if you're a lawmaker, Vicki, for the state of Ohio. Who do you pay attention to? The people that can vote you in and vote you out, and the people that donate money to you. That's how the American system works. Now,
Exactly.
That's
Mhm.
fortunate or unfortunate. I'm not making any comment on that. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to join our fight? We're just starting to organize. Darren is the captain for Maine. We're looking for a captain for Ohio.
If I knew what I was doing, absolutely in a heartbeat.
You don't need to know what you're doing because we're going to help you.
Hmm.
See, I can't speak for Darren. I don't have any connection to Ohio other than going there every year in June before COVID. To say, I don't know anybody in Ohio. Well, that's not true. I know one person. The guy that gave the seminar lived in Cleveland, or right outside Cleveland.
Andrew Carey, right?
But I don't know anybody in Cleveland. I don't know anybody in Ohio. So we need a local person that can help us and help people gather as a community to vote people in and out. Do you
Well,
know? I don't know if you know this, but in California, judges can be elected by the public or they can be appointed
mhm.
by the governor. But either way, you have to face re-election. Okay? Do you know
Mhm.
how a judge is appointed and re-elected, if not, or if they're re-elected at all in Ohio?
I believe that they would have to be reelected by the people, by the votes, the people.
But how do they become a judge?
Well, hopefully through the people.
They might be, like I think Darren told us that in Maine they're just appointed by the governor.
Correct. Yes.
Federal judges, and this is a big thing, for every presidency, federal judges are appointed by the president for life. There's no re-elections. They're for life.
Hmm.
So, every time we have a different president, one of the big issues is, well, who's the president going to appoint as a federal judge? Because federal judges, they're people. They retire, they leave the bench for many different reasons, um, and they get replaced. And sometimes, growing areas need more federal judges, and the person who appoints them is the president. And that's at the trial court level, what they call the U.S. District Court level, the appellate level, which they call the circuits. And depending on where you live, you're in a different circuit. And even at the Supreme Court level, I mean, we've seen that on the news in the last, 5, 6, 7 years about all the to do, the politics behind appointing a certain person to the United States Supreme Court. And once they're on for life. So bringing it back to the state level, it's important. It's important who the judge is because
Oh,
they're going to be deciding your case or cases like you, right? They're going to be deciding cases like you. So
absolutely.
we want to try to organize state by state, but do it nationwide and try to vote in people that are sensitive to this CPS issue, both at
Family
the
oriented judges, yes.
both at the federal level and the state court level, right? And then we want to try to elect officials, at your state legislatures that can change laws. I don't know in your state, but in my state, you're not entitled to a jury trial if you're accused of child abuse.
I don't
I,
think we are here either.
yeah,
I could be
some
wrong, but I don't believe we
there
are.
are there are a handful of states where you're entitled to it. Now, what I understand is a lot of people don't use that right. But I start a trial tomorrow in another county, and this would be the perfect case to have a jury decide instead of one person being the judge.
Hmm.
So what if you want? I mean, it's incredibly expensive if you allow people to have jury trials, but we're talking about in a lot of cases, people are going to lose their kids
Mm.
forever.
Right, right.
Forever. You know, I have a guy that cuts up and edits my videos and posts, YouTube shorts and
Mm.
things on Facebook, very short videos. And I was watching one this morning, and it was done, 7, 8 years ago. but I said something that I believe is true. You know, people that parents, grandparents like yourself and Darren, who have cases in CPS courts, you have less rights than you would have if you were accused of drunk driving.
Right.
Now,
Absolutely.
which is more important? You know, well, for me, it would be my kids,
Absolutely.
right?
Mhm.
Drunk driving, I probably won't go to jail, and if I do, it'll be a very short period of time. But yet, I have all the rights afforded to me as a criminal defendant.
Hmm.
So, how is this going to change? Well, it's not going to change with us doing marches. It's not going to change with us, getting on these shows and talking about it. It's going to change if we actually do something. I said this the other day. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. My son, who's deceased, told me something. He says, "Don't talk about it, be about it."
Mm.
Good.
So if you would be willing to join us, I'd be happy because we don't get a lot of calls from Ohio. I don't know why, but we
I
don't.
can't find very many parents. I think I found one other parent in my county that, that I've discussed, we discuss our cases back and forth a little bit, but, it's like I told him, if, uh, if I could get a few more people together, would you be willing to go and stand at the courthouse with us? And I didn't get an answer back. So,
But that's ineffective, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, Vicky. Signs at a courthouse is ineffective.
oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is, but
Let's do something that's effective. Let's gather people together online, okay? And let's get people to go out and vote. Vote our agenda,
mm,
okay? That's how
I
you
know
make.
one online that's lost their kids and is fighting this corrupt battle a lot online.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Are they really doing anything that's effective?
There are a few, and in their states, yes, there are a few.
Are they changing laws?
Yes, they're trying anyway.
Right. That's what you have to do. I know of two people, and I know a lot of people that are online fighting CPS. And I know two who have been effective so far. And one is a guy from Minnesota, whose name I forget. I apologize. And another one is a woman from Northern California.
Hmm.
She actually did something that I think caused two judges to retire.
Mm.
She went out and got the number of signatures required to put a recall vote against two judges.
Whew.
Now, I didn't realize this until after I started researching it. To get a recall vote on a judge in California is not very difficult. It takes a lot of work, getting signatures. And the reason why I was told, now I don't know if this part is true, but I was told the reason why they retired because she got enough votes to put them on the ballot. And if they actually have an election and the judge loses, he or she may lose her pension, her retirement.
Hmm.
So instead of facing that recall and losing, they just retired. Now,
Wow.
whether you like it or don't like it, but that's effectuating change, my friend.
Hmm.
And getting signatures is hard. It takes a little bit of organization. And we've talked about this on the show, how we would organize from state to state.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's what we have to do. There's so many things over the years that I've thought of that I wish was the law, but it's not. And the only reason is because our state legislature hasn't made it the law. No reason why it shouldn't be, other than of course, money. If you had a jury trial in CPS cases, it would be incredibly expensive for your county and
Oh,
state.
I'm sure.
And that's one of the reasons why, the primary reason, I think, you don't have that right.
Well, they want to hide it too. They want to hide the corruption. I feel they do. I feel they want to hide the corruption. And if they can keep the public out of the court, then it's a little easier to do it that way.
You know, LA had a very well-known presiding judge of juvenile court several years ago, and he fought to make juvenile dependency courts open to the press. And the story that I heard, I don't know if it's accurate, but the story I heard was they drafted a law, and before they passed it, it was sent to DHHS for review. And that's where all the money comes from, right? The federal government. And DHHS said, allegedly, oh, that's a good law. Go ahead and pass it. But if you pass it, you'll be in violation of our federal regulations, which keeps everything confidential in child abuse cases. And you'll lose your federal funding. Guess what happened to that law? It got crumbled up and put into the trash can.
Yeah.
Go figure, yeah.
Because we're talking about not hundreds of millions, billions of dollars.
Hmm.
Vicki, if you started counting right now, you couldn't count to 1 billion before you died.
Hmm.
That's how much a billion is.
Right,
We're
right.
talking about billions of dollars. So I highly recommend go to Amazon. I think it's on Amazon. I know you can buy it from any law school bookstore and buy that book. I think the guy that wrote it was Posner, Posner. And there's a couple of very famous Posners throughout history that have been great legal writers. But this one is called The Economic Analysis of the Law.
Hmm.
And it'll give you an insight as to why things are done the way they're done. And it's not what you think. You know, it's not what you think at all. We wrap everything into, oh, we're protecting kids.
Mm.
To a certain extent, that's true, but it's not the major thing that we're doing. The major thing we're doing is we're making money for the counties or for the states.
Oh yeah, I think that's the majority of it right there is the money. I mean, corrupt.
Kinsley's mommy says you'd get a lot from Louisiana. Kinsley, contact us, Grace at Vincent W. Davis. That's my my producer's email address, and let us know. And Kinsley says, do the amount of second published, do the amount of signatures depend on the state and or county? Yeah, of course, that's all a matter of state law and county law. Karen, did you have any questions or comments for our guest?
No, not really, Mr. Davis. I was just kind of, this is, just another unfortunate, girl grows up too fast, runs away and now lost in the system type deal, it's just really sad. But no, I'm actually excited. I'm going to get this book today and I'm going to put my nose in it and start reading about that. So I'm excited for that.
Miss Vicki, did you have any questions for me?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
As far as minors in these people are considered kinship, okay, and they're not even related, but they're considered kinship. I assume that's to save money. Are they allowed to sign for my granddaughter to get tattoos?
You know, that's going to be on depend upon your state law in Ohio. In California, it would depend on whether they were guardians, legal guardians, or foster parents. So they would make that distinction.
Well,
But I will tell you this. If your granddaughter's 17 years old, it's pretty hard to stop a 17-year-old from doing something like that.
Oh, I know, but they're signing for her and then started at 16 signing for her. She has like multiple tattoos, and I don't have an issue with that, but at least be old enough to make that decision because that's something permanent that at 16 you might have liked, but at 25 probably don't. You know what I mean?
Well, let's ask Darren. Darren, how about those tattoos, man?
Yeah, I love them. I mean, you know what? I'm willing to accept that the fact that one of these days this wolf will just be a little skinny, frail, hanging loose skin wolf. You know, but yeah, I think that you should be 18. I really do. That's the way I feel about tattoos. I think that the reason that they put that 18-year-old threshold on everything is because the person is old enough to accept responsibility for themselves. I don't feel like anybody should be accepting responsibility for anybody. I just feel like the United States and all of our systems need to stop messing with stuff and just leave that threshold. I mean, it's worked for so long. Let's
Yeah.
just leave it.
Vicky, I'll be 65 this July, and
Holy smokes.
I come from a generation when I was raised that tattoos were, thumbs down on the tattoo. And my father, it always rings in my mind what my father used to say to me, basically promising him I would never get a tattoo, right?
That's
But
my dad. Yeah.
but today, that's a whole different, thing. And my daughter um, got has tattoos, and I don't think she was 18 yet, but I can't remember for sure. But it was the kind of thing, I had to bite my tongue and not say anything
Hmm.
because it's we this is a whole different way of thinking. Life constantly changes, constantly, and I find it's like a pendulum. Tattoos are in now. 25 years from now, they'll be out, and then they'll be back in. It's like bell bottoms, right?
Right.
Things
Which
come
I
and go.
still love, by the way.
Things just come and go.
Well,
And
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I have another question. You know how, like, say you have your grandchild, or not grandchild, but a kinship child, regardless if it's related or not, and you'll have to go back to court every so often to redo your custody. Well, this has happened in my granddaughter's case with her kinship, and they said that they've decided that they no longer want custody of her, but she can still live with them, and they're allowing that at Children's Services. So
Yeah,
now
that's a unique, probably Ohio thing, and probably because she's 17. When did she turn 18?
she will be 18 August 7th, and the case will close on the 8th.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And then on the 9th, she'll want to come back to your house.
Yeah, my land.
Because whatever money they're giving her now or giving to the people that she lives with, that's going to end. That's not going on forever.
I don't know that they're actually getting any money. They told me that they were offered $300, but they have money.
Mhm.
And I know that, I know for a fact they've got my daughter or granddaughter one car. I was told they've got her two. They own real estate, and I was told that they bought another house that they're going to move into, and then they're going to put theirs into my granddaughter's name. Now you can see why my granddaughter has done all this.
Right, right, right. Hey, can I go live with them?
You can pay me enough. That's just me.
I want to tell you this quick story, Vicky, because we're running out of time. Many, many, many years ago, when I was a court-appointed attorney, at this point in time, court-appointed attorneys represented children and parents and relatives. So you could have a caseload with parents, children, and relatives. They don't do that anymore here in California. But so I had children on my caseload. And I remember I represented a group of siblings that were placed in foster home and different foster homes. And it came time for the mother to get them back. One of the kids had been placed in Malibu. I don't know if you know anything about Malibu, but that's where all the It's on the beach, literally on the beach. They call it the Colony. It's not a place, it's a lifestyle, is what they say. Malibu is not a place, it's a lifestyle. Anyway, this girl had been placed in a home in Malibu. She had her own bedroom, never had that before. She had her own TV, never had that before. She had her own closet and clothes. Okay, everything before was, hand-me-downs, right?
Hmm.
They put her in a private school, and they had a housekeeper who did all the cooking and cleaning, so she didn't have to do that anymore. When it came time to go back home, she didn't want to go back home.
Right, right, right. Thank you. There it is.
And then, the mother was kind of, upset about it, but she got over it. Not because I said so, but she just got over it. And she says, well, that's the dream that I always wanted for my children. This girl went on to graduate high school, to go to college, and to go to medical school. She became a doctor. Now,
Hope she didn't forget her parents in the process, though.
well, the father wasn't involved at all. It was just the mother and the siblings. And she didn't forget about her family. And it's been, decades since I've even thought about this or talked to anyone on that case. But what I recall is she still was, helping her family. Now, very unique situation, but shit happens.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll get over it too. It's just right now I'm just really I'm I feel I put a lot of work into that girl over the years, let me tell you. It was not easy either. And then for her to lie. Oh, got on the stand, swore under oath that me and my 83-year-old mother forced her to smoke pot with her dad. And the judge knows her now, okay? She looks at her and she says, when was the last time you smoked pot? She said, 3 days ago. Nobody had to ever force that girl to smoke pot. Nobody ever did force her to smoke pot. But just anything to make me look bad.
Right. But you know what? What's that song? If you love them, let them go.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I am. I am. Yeah.
Many years ago, I went to a Catholic boys' high school, and there was a guy that was I think he was several years ahead of me, but he became a Jesuit priest. And anyway, he's involved with rehabilitating a gang-related community, and helping kids get out of that life, giving them jobs and, education and all that. And I saw an interview one time on the news, on NBC News, local station here, and the interviewer was asking this priest questions, and everything wasn't always rosy when you're dealing with people, right? And he said to the priest, he said, "Father, don't you feel taken advantage of?" And the priest paused for a moment, looked up in the air, like this, and he says, I'm not taken advantage of, because I gave my advantage away a long time ago.
Yeah. That was deep.
So,
Yep.
so sometimes you find yourself in those positions, and I think you probably find yourself in that position.
Yes.
But your sanity is much more important. I guess you got the other grandkids there. So
My 15-year-old is living with my parents. He wanted to go to their school in that area because of the sports. He loves to play sports, so he's there. My other one's almost 19, so yeah.
okay. Well, you did the best you could do. Nothing more.
Exactly.
Nothing more. Any more questions?
Tracy had a question, if that's okay. Remember Tracy from last Wednesday, I think it was?
Vaguely. Do you
It's
remember yours?
quite a
The
unique
no,
case.
yeah, the Patriot, the Tracy the Patriot, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
what was your question?
If I can read my own writing, since Vince was kicked off, let me see. I would like to know his opinion on the law and what can be done by parents about the grooming of our children, and why doesn't he do a class action or a RICO, start suing these people?
Okay, good question. Is Tracy from Ohio?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to try to answer it in reverse. RICO is a federal law that was designed to prosecute and sue organized crime. It has been used um, to, in business or in other areas of our life. However, the last time I was researching this, it's been several years, the feeling among the federal judiciary has been, in my opinion, not to allow people to sue under RICO, like sue a government entity under RICO.
Hmm.
So you probably won't be able to get that off the ground. However, from a common sense point of view, I can see why people want to sue CPS under RICO laws, because a lot of people are thinking it's just racketeering.
It
It's
is.
it's people are doing things to make money.
Hmm.
That's the problem. And there's another problem with RICO. To do a RICO case, to prove it, to actually prove it, is incredibly labor intensive. In other words, who's going to pay for
Hmm.
it? Same problem with class actions. You know, this, I don't know how much this is still relevant with electronic service becoming the norm in a lot of cases. But in the old days, you know what it took to do a class action? You could spend $250,000 just on mailing the notice to the class. You got to write a letter, you got to print it X amount of times, you got to stuff it in an envelope that's already addressed, you got to slap some postage on it, and somebody's got to take it to the mailbox.
Hmm.
Now, imagine doing that for 10,000, 50,000 people. That's a lot of work,
Yeah, it is.
you know. And so, does Tracy or Vicky have an extra 250 G's sitting around that we can just notice the class?
I know
That's
Vicky don't.
that's just to get the lawsuit started. You know,
Mm.
that's the lawsuit. And then what's happened over the years, in my opinion, the courts the federal courts have narrowed the times when you can bring a class action lawsuit. In the old days, when I first became a lawyer, you know, if you could just think about it, you could file a class action lawsuit. Now you can't. It's been narrowed quite a bit, and it has to be a very unique circumstance before you can file a class action. Now, that's not to say you can't sue CPS in some type of class action lawsuit, but the issue and the damage among the class members has to be pretty much the same. There are things that you could do, but I don't think you can do them to get the kind of outcome that you're really looking for from a class action point of view. So, you know, and of course, economics is always the thing. Who's going to pay for it?
Right. I
You
don't
know,
know. They're so corrupt. So corrupt. They destroy so many families. And, my case, I guess I'm angry about it. I'm hurt about it. But then I think about people that have these little tiny kids. They don't know where they are. If there's multiple siblings, they don't know if they're separated. They don't know if they're being fed, if they're being mistreated. And I just could not sleep or eat or function under that case. And we know there's been suicides over it. Big
mhm.
children's services care? Nah, as long as they get that money.
Yeah. So, I was raised by my paternal grandmother, and she also always used to tell me, don't get mad, get even. So you want to change something? Let's quit being mad. Let's take that energy and let's force it into make some changes.
Mhm. That's smart grandma.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I want to tell you is when, people think, oh, well, let's sue somebody. That's easier said than done, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
On my car, I had to have my transmission changed. That's easy said. Hell of
Hmm.
a lot of work. Hell of a lot of work, and it's expensive. So when you think of lawsuit, think of that. Because in the end, somebody's got to pay for it. Going to court is not just, it's not a car accident case. It's not a car accident case. It's much more complex. And more complex means more money, more time. I hope that answered your question or Tracy's question, did it?
I believe so. I mean, I can't say for Tracy, but it answered it, I believe.
Okay.
I appreciate the time
All righty.
speaking with you.
I want to thank you for sharing your Sunday morning with us, coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And if you ever have any questions for us, give us a call. Um, See the bottom right hand corner,
Hmm.
888 Just give us a call. So
Thank
we'll,
you.
thank you, and I'll be talking to you later. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, I think I lost Mr. Guy. He's maybe having technical difficulties, but thank you everybody for watching. If you have any questions, give me a call, and we'll be on next week, starting Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. So we'll see you then. Goodbye, everyone.